Yo, 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 man, it's your boy Cory, it's the Progression Point Podcast. It's so weird. I'm doing this solo dolo, but I definitely have a very special guest in the building. My homeboy Oliver, man, he is from Rockford, Illinois. He's a childhood friend of my wife. Man, I'm just honored that he was able to hop on here with me tonight. Oliver, what's going on, brother?
Man, nothing much, man. Cory, thank you again for having me. I'm nervous, I'm excited. But,
just be yourself, man. Just be yourself.
It's overdue. You and I, we had great conversations, so I'm honored to be here with you.
Absolutely.
So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, man, tonight, man, we a lot of people was in my inbox, man, because I posted some stuff about stocks. And, I don't claim to be a stock guru or anything like that, but it's something I've always wanted to get into. So, like, for me, like 2017, man, I just, my wife's uncle actually, he understands stocks. And, man, I just asked him a few questions. He gave me the basics. And then, I went from there, man. But now, man, like I said, I just want to have Oliver on because people was asking me questions. And, I'm all about changing mindsets and helping people grow. That's the reason Ty and I put this whole podcast together. So tonight, man, it's we're gonna try to keep it to 30 minutes like usual. If we go over, it's only because we want to just give you guys good information. So tonight, man, I'm gonna let Oliver just share a little bit about his background, where he's from, and what he does. So without further ado, it's my man Oliver.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for the introduction.
Oh man, no problem, bro.
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm from Rockford, Illinois. Grew up with Jazz, right? Jazz and I grew up together. My father's a real estate developer. He's developed a whole subdivision of 84 homes on the west side of Rockford back in the year 2000, 2001.
Nice.
I went on to venture on into finance myself, Kennesaw State University. Shout out to the Owls. And from there, I found the passion in financial modeling and valuation, which is pretty much, in a nutshell, it helps us determine the value of a company, value of real estate, anything that needs valuation in a business. So 12 years ago, I really got into stocks because I figured if I could value companies, and I could value companies that were on the stock market.
Yep.
So the great thing about that is being able to apply things that I already knew, things that were applying to my day-to-day job, and say, hey, you know what? Let me try a different industry, and that's how we ended up here. Real estate is my passion, it's my baby, but to understand the valuation side of things always helped me say, okay, you know what? This is exactly what this is. So it was a good thing for me. Yeah.
That's what's up. I think a key thing that you said was it was something that I picked up on. It was like, man, you said your dad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That influence of your father.
Yeah.
Seeing him do it. It created a love for you. I just really think, and I know you'll say the same thing, like having a positive role model or somebody to look up to, and then also to give you that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. My dad has his own story. I told him he needed to write a book on his story, but my father didn't finish college. He went to college, never finished, and became an engineer. And he took the skills that he learned from working for the city of Rockford and applied it and said, okay, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. It's funny because I always tell everyone my mother is a hustler. My mom was the one who kept the bills paid while my dad had these crazy dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like my wife and I are doing the same thing now, where I have these crazy dreams of being a big entrepreneur, and my wife is the one who keeps the house together. But yeah, definitely watching my father as an influence growing up, man, was always like a big deal because he's risk it all. He would risk it all, but that's what really molded me and made me do what I do now.
That's what's up.
Yeah, definitely.
So, man, what year did you graduate high school, man?
2003, Guilford High School.
Shout out to the Vikings.
Yeah, G-Vikings, man. I was supposed to go to Jefferson or East, and I was playing ball, man, and I got recruited over to Guilford, man, and I still regret it to this day, man. I always wanted to be a Jayhawk, man.
Right.
So, yeah, man, definitely grew fond of my friends over there at Jefferson, South Side till I die.
Yep. Man, so if any of our listeners, you do not know where Rockford, Illinois is, man, honestly, Rockford is probably about an hour and a half west of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But like, man, the suburbs is like a hop, skip, and a jump. It's like 45 minutes from, you know what I'm saying? So it's super close in proximity.
Yep.
And a lot of issues that Chicago deals with, Rockford deals with also.
Absolutely.
And so, man, just we all know, man, a lot of us don't come from too much of nothing, man. And so we just really want to give people tools, man. Like I said, a lot of people was inboxing me. Like I said, I'm not a guru on this whole stock thing. And I just want to have somebody on, man, to where we can talk about stocks. I definitely want to talk about life insurance tonight, and then the importance of that in our community, and then also, the importance of financial literacy for not just for us, but for the generations to come after us. So, man, just give us a little general, brief overview of stocks.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you bring up a valid point with education. I think there's a lot of misinformation that's out right now. Everyone has an opinion, but a lot of people are not looking and researching, doing their education on the stock market itself.
Yeah.
The stock market, I tell everyone, I said the stock market is an exchange of a company. So I own a company. I say, hey, Cory, I want you to invest in my company. I'm going to sell you a piece of my company, and you're going to ride this wave as the company does well or as the company has challenges.
Yep.
And you'll say, okay, great. I will provide a loan, for lack of better words. So on the exchange, we have these buyers and sellers that are communicating between 9:30 and 4:30 Monday through Friday, 266 days out of the year, going through buying and selling and saying, hey, I think that this company has value. It does not have value. I tell everyone, I don't know Mark Zuckerberg personally, but I think that this young man is a brilliant mind. I think that he has a great idea with the social media thing. So since I don't know Mark personally, I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to invest in this company, and I'm going to work my day-to-day job while I let Mark Zuckerberg run the whole social media campaign.
Right.
And that's what stocks are. We're investing in companies and industries that we believe there's experts in. And as there's experts in these industries, we just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to tap in. I'm going to let you do all the hard work, all the heavy lifting, but I do want a piece of your profits.
Right.
And as you and I were talking about this before offline, I tell everyone, investing in the stock market is not an overnight success. A lot of people that, like myself, that invest for stocks, we're investing for our children, our grandchildren. Because it is a slow process.
Absolutely.
But it's a very rewarding process when you can watch a Facebook stock go from $10 or $12 to $112.
Man, imagine if, let's say, when they went public, Facebook was like $10 a share.
Sure.
Now, and say you bought 10 shares, 100 shares, how much is it, Facebook stock? Like,
I think 113 today, since we're in this coronavirus, but we're about $113 or $130, about $130 today. About $130 today.
You do the math.
Yeah, I mean, you think about this too, Cory, like, I graduated in 2003. I think Facebook really didn't adapt.
2003, 2004.
Right? That's when it really
started. Because it was just for college students.
That's it.
I remember it.
So we had the opportunity to get in, but we just didn't have the opportunity. We didn't know how to get in. There was no Robinhood. When I first wanted to open my
Let's
first
talk about,
brokerage.
real quick, just explain what Robinhood is.
Yeah, so I love Robinhood. I think that Robinhood is a great brokerage. And all the brokerages is a place that houses your money. So rather if you're investing or not, Robinhood is a place where you can actually park your money and you can find all the different stocks. The New York Stock Exchange is the largest stock exchange. Different countries and continents have their own stock exchanges, but the New York Stock Exchange has the most. I mean, it has thousands of different stocks. So you can say, hey, I'm going to take $200 a month and I'm going to put this money into Robinhood, which is going to house my money until I have enough money to invest into Apple, Chipotle, so on and so forth. The other great thing is what I love about Robinhood is that it's protected. So you don't have to worry about anyone hacking in and stealing your money. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is brokers don't have insurance. So if I have money inside Robinhood, the SEC is watching the funds. You can't just open a company and say, hey, we're going to house and sell stocks. Mm-hmm. There's a long list of things that you must do. So we have to learn how to adapt and say, hey, there are companies out here that we can trust and place our money here, and we won't lose our money.
Right. Another thing, a dope thing too I like about Robinhood, or even Acorns too, is that you can buy one stock.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Man, I think that, Cory, I think that's like perfect, right? I think that a lot of people think that you have to have a lot of money, and that's so far from the truth.
Right.
As a matter of fact, with Robinhood, when you sign up and you open your account, they actually give you a free stock. Cory, if you want to share your link at the end of this, man, I think that'd be great.
Yep.
But, you get a free stock. And I tell everyone, as I'm coaching, as I'm going through and I'm showing them how stocks work, hey, if you're very temperamental, you're scared about jumping into the market, they're going to give you a free stock. let's get some education off this free stock, and then when you're ready, then you can jump on and you can say, okay, I'll put $100 in or $50 every 2 weeks, and now I know how to do this thing. But I love Robinhood for that. You know, a lot of people love E-Trade. I have an E-Trade, I have a TD Ameritrade, I have a Fidelity account, but I really admire where we are today, because 10 years ago today, we didn't have Robinhood, and it was very difficult. You're trying to figure out these things with stocks, and you're looking at 10Ks, and you're looking at balance sheets, and you're trying to figure that out. So today we don't have to. Today we have Robinhood.
Right. And then, like I said, one stock, you can buy 1, 2, and then but like Acorns too is like, they'll take, I know, I'm not really super familiar with it, I'm getting there, but like I know, like they'll take your change or take whatever it is and round it up.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think that's kind of dope too.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's the concept, right? It's the idea of, hey, you know, I went to Marshall's and I bought a t-shirt or two and I have 72 cents left over. Okay, great. Well, let me take that 72 cents and I'm going to go to Walmart after this. I'm going to Target. I have another 80 cents. So now I have change that's left over, and I can round that change up, and now I can buy a Ford stock for $5.
Yep.
Right? Yep. I wasn't thinking about it, and like you said, it provides the education. And I think that's so what we need in this generation.
Right. I want to touch on too. I know for me, I remember looking at the ticker tape from jump, and I had no idea what I was looking at.
Yeah.
So can we just help people out with a little, a little bit of that?
So I do one-on-ones with different students who are interested in learning about the stock market, and like you mentioned, the ticker. You know, there's terminology in stocks, there's terminology in finance, and it's super important for us to kind of understand this terminology so it doesn't feel so broad. But there's not a lot of terms in this industry that will overwhelm you. It's not like learning Spanish.
Not at all.
You will hear these terms over and over.
Yep.
And as we look at charts, I was teaching a young lady today, there's only 3 or 4 things that I really look for before I invest in a stock. And you're never going to be 100% right or wrong. Yeah. You're just going to be more confident about being right or wrong. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at a ticker, which is for Apple, is APL or APPL.
Yeah, APPL, yeah.
It's just an abbreviation, right?
Yep.
You say ticker, I may say abbreviation, but it lets us know that, hey, this is the stock that we're looking at. And then we go in depth to look at the stats of the company. And as we look at that company, we can find out if it's a good investment or not. But, you know, terminology like ticker, these are words that should not scare us, but I think it does put a little fear in us.
Yep. So when you say you're looking at the ticker and you see 228, that means that's how much the stock cost, one share of that stock.
Today, right?
Today.
So the market is closed. You and I are Mountain Standard Time, since we're Mountain Standard Time. The market closes, I think, about like 1 or 2 o'clock.
Yep.
For people that are probably listening, they're in Central Standard, so they're an hour behind the market.
Yep.
So if they're an hour behind the market and they're looking at a price after 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, that is what the close price is. And what that means is, hey, this is where the stock ended off at 4 o'clock or 4:30 that day.
Yep.
I tell a lot of people that a lot of movement happens the next day.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to purchase a stock,
oh man,
right?
I just had that happen.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to put that order in and kind of say, okay, how much do I want to pay for this stock?
Yep.
How much do I want to value for this stock? But yeah, like you said, that ticker price is like, hey, am I overpaying for this stock or am I underpaying for this price? So
when I sent you that text about Buy America,
yeah, man,
at night I think it was like $9.
Yeah.
When the market opened back up the next morning, it shot up. It was like $23.
Yeah, and that's funny the way information travels so fast. You sent me a text, and I think you and I are like 2 hours behind or 3 hours behind Eastern Standard Time.
Right.
So if you and I didn't tackle that right away, we would have missed out on the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think that's important. The other thing I think was awesome as well is the news, the information that you had, and the information that you had was quick. Right.
Yeah.
I think that's super important. It's information and good information quick.
Yep. So like, man, like Oliver said, man, the stock market is not a get rich quick scheme by any means. Yeah. It's for longevity. And like, man, I heard I was talking to somebody on Facebook, man, and dude was like, his wife's parents had a crazy, ridiculous amount of like Coke stocks left for her. Yeah. Like, man, like That's what it's for.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. That's how I actually got my first stock I bought when I was 16. I had a custodial account. I didn't understand the value of it, and when I was 19, 20, I moved to Texas. When I moved to Texas, I sold my shares. I went to the bank, and I wish I never would have done that. But the lesson that I learned was that I bought it at 16 and sold it 4 or 5 years later. And I was like, man, like I had some gains here, so I took the money and I ran.
Right.
The beautiful thing about what you said is when I met my first mentor in stocks, he was grandfathered thousands of stocks since birth, a Ford. And it was just crazy to me because he never knew he had his grandfather passed away and it was in his will. And it was just like, oh my gosh, what is this thing and how much money did he leave you?
Right.
You know, so, and he was, you know, in his 30s, right? He's like 31, 32 years old. So you got to think about for 30 years, his grandfather's buying Ford stocks since he was little. That's just,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And the compound interest on top of that.
Oh my God. Some stocks have dividends.
Yeah.
Which we
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
So dividends is a thank you payment is what I like to call it. It's a thank you payment for saying, hey, you invested in AT&T early, or you invested in AT&T, you rode the wave out with us. We're going to give you a percentage of our profit.
Yeah.
So let's use an example for, let's use Apple for an example. Apple, let's say, is $100. If Apple's price is at $100 and they pay, let's say, 3%.
I'm going to their dividends is 1.34.
1.34. So let's use a simple number. Let's say Apple's stock price is at $100.
228.
Is that $228?
$228.
So I'm gonna use simple math because Cory better at math than me. So at $100, if there's what's their dividend yield?
1.34%.
1.34. So they're going to pay 1% of that $100, and they're going to pay it over a course of a year. They're going to pay it 4 times a year. So no matter which way.
Every quarter, correct?
I'm sorry?
Every quarter?
Every quarter, every 3 months.
Yep.
So regardless which way the stock market goes, if it goes up or if it goes down, what's going to happen is they're going to reward you for having a piece of their stock. As a matter of fact, I would encourage for everyone to, if you're looking into stocks, look for that first. It's under dividend yield or div yield.
It's a progression point, y'all.
And you guys should definitely take a look there and see if a stock has that. If it has a dividend. Now, not all companies are good companies that have dividends, but they are definitely something to take a look at.
Absolutely.
The other great thing is you can Google aristocrat stocks. These are stocks, Cory, which is crazy. For the last 40, 50 years, they have not missed a dividend payment. These companies are not required to pay dividends, but if you Google them, a new list comes out every year, and usually like the top 30 or 40 or 50, and a lot of people jump onto these companies because they have not missed a payment.
That's huge, though.
It's huge. Like
AT&T, that shows that they value their shareholders.
Big time. So when you think about AT&T, I think their stock is like $44 or $50, and they pay like 3 or 4%. They have not missed a dividend payment in 40 or 50 years.
Dog,
right?
no,
like
you got to go up on it. You got to go up on their dividends. Guess how much?
How much?
7%.
Like that's crazy. Like you're telling me that no matter which way the market goes,
I'm still paying you 7%.
You're still gonna pay me 7% for the year. You try taking that to the bank and ask them for 7%.
Not doing it.
Right, and then again, you also got to think about it too. As the stock grows, right, as the stock becomes worth more, it's 7% of what the profit is. So let's say the stock goes from $40 to $100, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm getting 7% of $100.
I'm looking at one right now. We all heard of Lululemon.
Yes.
Their stock is $176, and they do no dividends or no yields.
Yeah, you'll find Google.
And AT&T is a $27 stock, and they give 7%.
A lot of the big boys don't like to pay out dividends, but
man,
you know the cool thing is real estate.
Yeah.
REITs, we call them real estate investment trusts. Every real estate stock has to pay dividends. A lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
So a lot of people that want to jump into real estate, they may be afraid to jump into real estate, take the risk.
Yeah.
But every real estate company has to pay dividends.
Wow.
It's required by the SEC for them, because you got to think about it, their profits are coming from the rents being raised.
Yeah.
So they don't really have a lot of capital deployed.
Right.
A lot of their money is not depending if customers come in, but rather if their tenants are paying. So the SEC does require it, which is important.
Man.
So
man, y'all take, man, look, 17 minutes is a progression point, man. I should have wrote it down. I can't remember what it was, but look, man, so now we got to get into something that is very near and dear to my heart, man, life insurance.
Yes.
And, you know, in our community, man, like, unfortunately, A lot of people don't have life insurance, and I think it's because there's a lot of misinformation. They don't know the importance of it. They think it's, I don't know, man. Like, I just know a lot of people have funerals and they're doing GoFundMes.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Because they don't have life insurance to take care of that expense.
The saddest part is about what your statement is so true, because where you and I come from, similar backgrounds, we know that making it to 21, 22, 23 years old is like a major accomplishment. Right. I remember when I was a kid, not to be so dark, the first person I remember ever losing his life, execution style, I had him in like 12 or 13 years old, and reading about it in the paper and knowing that I went to school with this kid and he wasn't coming back again.
Right.
That part of life doesn't just happen to older folks. We do live longer, and it's important for us to understand that how life insurance works.
Yeah.
It's important for us to understand the value of it.
Yeah.
And for us to remove the selfishness out of the equation, right? Because a lot of people believe that their job provides enough life insurance, but it's really not the case. Right. Considering that we have families. I'm 35 years old, and I have more responsibility than I had in my 20s.
Right.
Which is my children and my wife. So, it's a value. It's definitely a value. But the education part about it is knowing what's the right policy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, my life may not be the same for yours. Right? So there's term life, there's whole life, there's universal index life. Some people are still afraid to invest into the stock market, or they're worried about investing in the stock market. Well, you can invest in the stock market through your life insurance policy. Your index fund is investing into the stock market for you.
Okay.
So like a whole life policy, right? This is a policy that's going to last you for your whole life. This policy is going to last you for your whole life, and you have cash value. That cash value comes from that policy, right?
Okay.
They're investing a portion of your life insurance or your premiums into the stock market.
Okay.
And that's how you're able to make money off of your life insurance, or borrow money, I should say.
So, off of your life insurance, you said you can invest?
Yeah. So let's say, Corey, you and the wife have a $100,000 policy. You guys have had this policy for 10, 15 years, right? Since you guys got married, whatever the case may be. That money's being invested in the stock market. That's where your cash value comes from.
Right.
So everyone knows about cash value. Everyone hears their cash value, but they don't really understand where it's coming from. Each time that you make a premium, the insurance company is taking a portion of that money and investing into the stock market. Just like your 401k.
Right.
Your 401k is invested in the stock market.
Right.
So is your life insurance, right? So they can offer you these nice returns in a couple of years, 10 to 15 years, because that money has done well inside the stock market.
Okay.
Right? So you're really borrowing that money from yourself.
Gotcha.
So,
man, I had no clue. So what if somebody's looking to get a life insurance policy? This might be too shallow of a question, but
sure.
What is the least amount you could pay, and then what would it cover?
No, that's a good question.
Okay.
And I think it's circumstantial. I'm glad you asked the question the way you did, because let's kind of step back and let's talk about the most popular life insurances that are out there, just for educational purposes. There's term life policy.
Yep.
Term life is the cheapest policy, and this policy is more affordable for young adults, preferably women, right? And this is for a term of your life. And a lot of times you can get this policy for up to 30 years, and God forbid if something happens to you within that 30 years, the policy pays out XYZ dollars in that term of your life. The downfall to term life is that it doesn't build cash value.
Right.
It only provides just the protection.
Right.
So when you
cover what? Funeral?
Yeah, well, anything, right? Funeral, childhood expenses, a mortgage payment, or mortgage payments are there for that matter, or even just, to invest capital again, to say, hey, I'm going to leave this money for my kids, and 20 years later you pass away, you leave them $1 million, there is no statute of limitations what they can do with that money.
Gotcha. And
that's how a lot of wealth is actually built. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, because I've done a case study on the Rockefellers, and I read a book on the Rockefellers, and that's how they continue to build wealth. The other common policy is a whole life policy. That policy does generate cash value.
Okay.
And when we were just talking about how that money is being invested into the stock market, It's a whole life policy, meaning it lasts for your whole life. The only time that policy does not pay out is, if you commit suicide, usually in most cases, right? If you commit suicide. But that whole life policy is a little bit more expensive. So since it is a more expensive policy, a lot of people do not buy that policy.
Whole life.
Yeah, whole life, man. And if I can encourage anything, man, get a quote on term and whole life. We're not going to be here forever. This is the best thing you can invest in, right?
Right.
Why play in the stock market or in real estate with the opportunity of losing money when we know for sure that we're all one day going to pass away?
Absolutely.
So spend a lot more money onto your whole life policy for the coverage. But to answer your question on how much should you have, I always tell everyone, do a multiple, right? If your house payment is $250,000, I would advise to have at least $750,000 or $1 million in the policy. You should be able to pay off your house 2 to 3 times, 2 to 3 times at least over. And it's not for you so much that your wife can't pay the policy, but it's more of the fact of, hey, if my wife needs time off, I am her best friend, and if she's having a hard time grieving, I want her to be able to take a sabbatical and be able to take some time off and be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put some money in my pocket and I'll go back to work later.
Yeah. Without
saying, well, I paid the house off, but then I still got to pay the property taxes. Because once you're gone, you can no longer contribute to that income. And a lot of times, as young as we are, we don't have enough Social Security built up.
Right.
So those payments aren't enough to sustain a household. I don't want my wife to remarry, and I don't want to put a financial burden on my children. Or the other case is, if we die in an older age, I don't want to put a burden on my children to take care of me in their old age, and I interfere with their marriage. Right. So I always tell everyone, when you're looking at life insurance policy, tally up all the debt, the cars, the homes that you have, anything that you know that you own, times that times 3. Therefore, it's not just about you, but it's about your children's children. A lot of wealth is being built through there. My wife and I have multi-million-dollar policies, and I pray to God that we live till we're in our 90s and our kids are in their 70s, so they won't need the policy.
Right.
Who will need the policy? Their kids who will be in their 50s and 40s on the downside of their life.
Yep.
So that's the way I like to look at the policy and say, hey, I want to make sure I leave enough for everyone. There's enough spread for everyone.
Right. I don't know, man. Sometimes I just feel like people will say stuff like that doesn't matter because they're too lazy to go out, do the research, and find out simply what it is, man.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I was turned on to life insurance at an early age. I had a Prime America account at 16. And, like I said, where you and I grew up, it's death is inevitable and it happens quicker than some. But I remember, having friends that I grew up with that they were big-time guys in the street, for lack of better words. Yeah, and when they died, they only had the money in their pocket.
That's it. Shoebox money.
Shoebox money, right? So when you look at situations like that, and they have children that's left behind, and they have mothers that have to bury them, and we have to cook plates and have fish fries and sell T-shirts to bury them. I think that's so important. Right? So yeah, man, I just, it's personal for me for life insurance.
Yep.
That's the biggest and best investment I believe that we have as a community, because at the end of the day, we're all going to pass one day or another, rather if it's in our 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s or 90s. It's the best investment we can provide. And not to go on too much, the best advice, if you want to call this a progression point, I advise for every single person that's listening to this podcast, go and get a quote. Get a quote. It costs you nothing. If anyone's charging you to get a quote, run away. Run away, because it's free to get a quote, just to find out how much of a policy can I receive under my circumstances, and get it while you're young. Young women get the best policies because statistically they live longer.
Absolutely.
Right? You and I, we get high blood pressure, we get diabetes, we have these challenges, and we get riders on our policies. But women, since they live longer, they are the best investment, because God forbid if something happens to them, or if you really want to build a legacy, right? Let them capitalize and maximize on the biggest policy they could possibly get. In my marriage, I have high blood pressure, I'm a little overweight. My wife has a way bigger policy. But at the end of the day, the policy is not for me, it's for my kids. Right. So one day we're both going to pass. Yeah. But if she can leave me a substantial amount of money for the kids, that's what I'm looking for.
And man, that's one thing I think that's so important, man. Is it's not about us.
Yes.
It's about leaving something for our kids,
Absolutely.
and then the ones coming after them. You know, our grandchildren.
Yeah,
you know what
man.
I mean? And so I'm gonna be upfront, transparent. Like, man, like right now I'm self-employed, so I'm looking to get a life insurance policy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My wife, you know, she has a job, so you know, through her job she's good.
Yeah.
But for me, being self-employed, I have to get a life insurance.
Absolutely.
So, you know, me and Oliver gonna have lunch, and then we're gonna talk about some stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna be calling State Farm or somebody. And,
yeah, man.
But I got to do it, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's not about me; it's about them.
The other thing too, big bro, you know, leading by example, right?
Yeah.
So you get a policy, and then you have your children get policies early.
Yeah.
Like you have a daughter, I have a daughter, right?
Right.
We both have daughters. When they turn 18, let's make sure they have policies.
Yeah.
Because they're young, they're healthy. Even, you know, our boys, right? At 18, they're young and they're healthy.
Yeah.
Let's get them policies while they can afford it, and let's maximize on that policy. Get them $1 million policies, because if we can prepay their policy, imagine what it'll cost them in the long run,
Mm-hmm.
right? It won't cost them as much,
Yeah.
right? Because they got it at a healthy young age, and I think that's so important, and it's very, very strategic.
Yep. So, man, moving right along, man. The last subject, man, that I want to hit tonight is the importance of financial literacy for ourselves, and then also to pass that information on to our kids, man. I don't know if I've ever told you a story, but man, you know, growing up, man, like my mom, you know, she just taught me, you know, I mean, just save money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was really it. And then, you know, and then like, man, my mom, you know, I'm not knocking my mom at all. My mom was trying to pay the bills.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
So
That's right.
having financial literacy, whether that's you know, saving or investing, or, you know, buying property to, you know, and having that property take care of your, you know, your mortgage,
Yes.
whatever bills you have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, stocks, none of that stuff was ever brought to me, but I feel like this was God, man. Like, I've always wanted to learn these things. And so, man, you know, let's just for, you know, while we close out here, man, just talk about the importance of, you know, us as parents, being the older, you know, generation, not even older generation, but just being parents, the importance of financial literacy so we can pass on to our children.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it right on the money. I believe that our parents didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? My father was a very successful entrepreneur, but there was times where, you know, our lights were cut off and we're eating potatoes with French fries and salt and Kool-Aid to go to bed at night to, you know, solve our hunger pains.
Yeah.
And as he became more of an entrepreneur later in his life, he found that there were more resources.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that in our community, you know, we've gone through every obstacle.
Yeah.
And we teach based off our obstacles.
Right.
My doctor, man, is from India. I love him to death, man. And the reason I love him so much is because a lot of things that we do, we inherited.
Absolutely.
From the food that we eat, the way we view life, the way we love,
Yeah.
right? The way we love our partners. And our parents didn't have the resource. They didn't have a Robin Hood. Right. You know, when I talked to my mom and dad about stocks and bonds, oh, you have to have money. You got to have money. And it was true because at that time,
absolutely,
the banks weren't taught to you if you didn't have $50,000 to invest in, right?
Right.
Today, we have these resources, even like your podcast. Like, I'm so happy to be here. Like, I'm super excited to be here because you're providing an opportunity for people to say, hey, I have a question. How do I get that answer?
Yeah.
What are the resources? We talked about Robin Hood. Robin Hood doesn't pay me to talk about Robin Hood, but it's a great way for me to be able to teach quickly what took me 13 years to say, oh, okay, this is how you do that.
Yep.
Right? And financial literacy, man, is super important because, again, my oldest son is 13, and when he becomes an adult, I want him to be 10 times better than me.
Absolutely.
Right? Not 5 times, but 10 times because the resources will be available.
Right.
You know, I joke with my millennial cousins that when we were in school, you and I, we used to have to read books.
Right.
They had the internet and everything was right there, but it was on a computer.
Right.
Now everybody had a computer in the home.
Or you had to go do the little joint where you get to take the card.
That's it.
And you go and...
remember that, man? Like, it was crazy. And the other thing is, too, you know, you think about it, we actually have more technology on our phones than we did when we sent the first man to the moon. So there's no excuse. Like, I get my hair
Google is your best friend.
I'm telling you. And getting good information from the right sources.
Yeah, Google University, absolutely.
Right? Getting the good information from the right sources. There's podcasts like you're doing, and there's people that are willing to give as much as possible. And
another good one. I'm not getting no money from them, man.
Yeah.
But Earn Your Leisure.
Oh, my favorite.
You know, man, like I sit in the shop some days, and that's all I'm playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, this podcast, man, this episode is just I just want to get people's appetites wet,
Yes.
so that they can go out and search out this information for themselves, man. Because, you know, like I said, you know, we're trying to keep it under 30 minutes, so we about 35 right now. But
It's my bad.
no, you good. No, you good, bro. I said, you know, from the beginning, I said, you know, it's probably go over just a little bit, man. But I just want to really get your whistles wet, so that you can go and start searching stuff on your own, man. But like, man, it is so important to understand a mortgage. You know what I mean? Like the language and all that. Like just all that stuff is important, man, because we got to get this stuff, all this knowledge, man, to our kids, man, so that they can be further along in their lives at 35, 36, 37 than we are.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so,
and big up to you. Like I said, man, you and I, we sit in the shop all day, and I look forward to coming here, and I appreciate you for having me on the podcast, because there's a lot of information out there, and you're willing to give it back. You and I have built such a strong relationship over these last, maybe 5-6 months?
Yeah.
And it's just like you were adamant about making sure that your viewers and your listeners heard this information. So big up to you, man, for doing that.
Because, bro,
being
like,
inspired to do that.
Because, man, look, like where I come from, man, I come from a small town of 26,000 people. Oliver City was about 20 minutes from me. That's another 300,000. You got Chicago. Right. And, man, like, honestly, you know, where I'm from, just gonna be honest, man, like, a lot of us weren't taught this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of economic, you know, hardships, man, and, you know, a lot of hardworking people, man. You know, you get a factory job, you good.
Right.
But you broke down by, like, the time you're 50.
Yeah.
Maybe even 40.
Man,
you know what I mean?
That breaks my heart. And I'm not going to hold this too long, but that breaks my heart.
Yeah, man.
You know, I'm in Walmart now. We're going through this coronavirus thing. And I snuck out. My daughter had a high fever, and I snuck out the other night. And I'm seeing all the older people, 55 and older, still working.
Yep.
And it's just like, man, I'm here 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and here you are doing stock at 55. And it's just heartbreaking, man. It's super heartbreaking. I know that each circumstance is different.
Yeah.
But I believe that we have the opportunity to break that cycle.
Absolutely.
Because we have the information, and we have the opportunity and the means to do so.
Yep. So man, that's the episode, man. I feel really good about this, man. And I just hope that I got your appetites. Man, y'all just go get this stuff, man. I'm going to put some links when I post this episode, man, on Instagram, which our Instagram is at the Progression Point Podcast. Look us up, man. Follow us on Facebook as well. I'm going to put some links to some videos that I think will be very, very beneficial. Because like I said, me and Oliver, it's just kind of stuff we just talked about tonight with surfer stuff. You know, there's like Earn Your Leisure, man. Them guys, they go in depth. You got him. You got Max, my man.
Maxwell.
Maxwell. He's the real estate guy.
I love him.
I love him. Yeah, man. So
it's
some people I'm gonna plug y'all into, man. Yeah. And Oliver, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna have you back, man, because then you know we can start talking about some stuff that we talk about is like developing TIF money. You know how there's money out there for you know if you got an idea, basically.
Yeah.
If you got an idea and you know you find out what that TIF money is, man, you can start yourself a business. It's that simple.
Love it, man.
It's that simple. So, man, this is the Progression Point Podcast, man. I miss my boy tonight, but I know he'll be here next week. So, man, until next time, man, y'all have a good one. Peace.